I want to welcome everybody this evening to our event and thank you for joining us as part of the next installment of the Pro Network series. My name is Laurel Mitchell and I'm the Director of Public Impact here at Erie Arts and Culture. As part of Erie Arts and Culture's mission, it is our goal to build the capacity of individuals and organizations that represent our creative and cultural sector throughout Northwestern Pennsylvania. We believe that this creates, when provided with the proper support, that when creatives are provided with the proper support, that they can make a tremendous positive impact on our communities. One way that we hope to do this is through events like these, which are part of the Pro Network initiative. I invite you to learn more about the Pro Network through our website, erieartsandculture.org, and then looking under the capacity building heading on the homepage. Through that page, you'll find previously recorded events like this, information about upcoming events, and other artist opportunities central to Erie Arts and Culture, such as our teaching artist program, our fellowship opportunities, and our grant programs. You'll also find information about new paid opportunities outside of our organization, such as residencies for artists, fellowships, call for artists, and more. These opportunities are updated on a weekly basis, so I encourage you to visit our website often so that you're up to date on the latest information. Before we begin this evening, I also would like to thank the National Endowment for the Arts for their support of this evening's Pro Network event. Without any further ado, it's my great pleasure to welcome Ebony Payne English to this event. She is an author, performer, playwright, and educator from Duval County. She's also the first Black woman to establish her own chapter of the international poetry organization, Black on Black Rhyme. Ebony is the 2017 Cultural Council of Greater Jacksonville's Emerging Artist and also the recipient of the Spoken Word Gala's 2017 William Bell Humanitarian Award. Ebony currently serves as the executive director of the Performers Academy, which is an arts organization in Jacksonville, Florida, and she's a founding member of the board of directors of Southern Fried Poetry Incorporated. Ebony's had her work published in a variety of ways and through a number of platforms, including graphic novels, poetry books, and through many esteemed outlets. She has also released several albums and has successfully debuted a play. Most recently, this year, Ebony launched her first short film. You can read more about Ebony and keep up to date with all of the latest by visiting her website, ebonypayneenglish.com. And now, it's my great pleasure to turn the mic over to Ebony for this evening's presentation and discussion. Ebony, welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. As she stated, I am Ebony Payne English, and the webinar that you are attending today is Self-Publishing 101. My target area of instruction today is merchandising your words. I am a poet. I've been a poet since I was 4 years old. I taught myself to read and write. And at that time, I was reading all Dr. Seuss, and all of those books rhymed. So I thought that when you wrote things down, they were supposed to rhyme. And so everything I wrote down was like in a rhyme. And that's how poetry chose me. I didn't choose to be a poet. I was just, since I started reading and writing, that kind of found me. I did not publish my first book, however, until well into my career. My first book was published in 2016. That was a poetry book. I published 5 children's books prior to that, but my first collection of poetry was published in 2016, October of 2016, and that was called Secrets of My Eye, and that was self-published. And then I published a graphic novel in 2019 that was self-published called The Random Happenings of My Universe. And there's going to be 7 points that we're going to cover today. That's what do you want to create with your words, right? What do consumers want to purchase in regards to literary content? Like, what is something that consumers are buying these days? And what makes what you create essential to your target consumer? Like, what's different about your work, or how are you going to present your work so that it's something people feel that they need, not just something you would like to sell? How do you shape that? Like, what does that look like, molding that into a product, your words into a product? And how do you price that? Like, what's a competitive pricing for the work that you publish? And then how do you sell it, which is marketing strategies, presentation strategies, um, explaining your platform and networking strategies, right? And then where do you sell that, which is what self-publishing platform I recommend or that I use. Um, so we're going to start right now with the what do you want to create? I'd like this to be an interactive exchange. We're going to I'm going to share the screen and we're going to work in a document together, and I'm going to show you like some step-by-step details about my self-publishing process and how that worked for me. But essentially, we're going to create something figuratively that we're going to publish together during this webinar, just so that you can see how the culmination of it all goes from creation process to actual publishing and making it available to the public at large. Does anyone have any questions right now immediately from me before we get into it? Okay, so we'll be using the chat box. I guess that's a fair exchange, unless you want to speak directly to me. I'm a communicator, so I Zoom is like still not my thing. I'm adjusting. So if you want to speak directly to me or ask your question or give your feedback directly to me, we can do that. But I wanted to start with haiku. Do we have any poets available? Is there anyone here that is a poet actually? The work that they're interested in publishing is poetry. Okay. Is it Sherry or Shari?
Sherry.
Sherry. Okay. Sherry is a poet. Okay. What other mediums besides poetry do we have here then? If we've got a poet, do we have any nonfiction writers, fiction writers, comic books? Essays. Okay. Self-help, memoir. Okay. All right. Playwright, blogger. Okay. Tony's also a poet. Cool. Cool. Okay, so what we're going to do together is a few exercises in haiku. Haiku is a short poem. It was invented in Japan. It's usually about nature, and it has a syllable count. It's 3 lines, 5 syllables for the first line, 7 syllables for the second line, and 5 syllables for the third line. So during this webinar, we're essentially going to publish a book of haikus, a collective book of haikus of our work together that we create during this webinar. And so we're going to have to find a title for it. We're going to have to decide which haikus go into it. And then we're going to decide like some packaging choices for it and things of that nature going into it. So that's going to take us to point number 1. What do you want to create, right? So I would like to create a compilation of haikus from Erie, Pennsylvania attendees of this webinar, right? So that's what I want to create. Now, what do consumers want to purchase? That would be essentially, I would like them to want to purchase this book of haikus, but that's going to start with us finding out how popular haikus are and what are some popular haiku books. So market research, right? When you want to create something that you want consumers to purchase, the first point to that is going to be market research. Now, with creative process, because the way that art works is it's very personal, taking an idea from the intangible realm of thought and making it manifest into the physical, tangible world of commerce, right, can seem like blending 2 different worlds. Where we create from is very personal. It has a lot to do with self. Where we market from and merchandise from has nothing to do with us or how much we love the work we created or how much we enjoy the product, right? It's all about our target consumer and how much they're going and anticipating how much they would like it, how they would like it to look, how they would like it to read, and what they would like it priced at comfortably for them to purchase. Or if it's going to be an uncomfortable price, what it needs to be, what it needs to be packaged as for that price to be uncomfortable but worthy. So that those consumers, even though they don't want to spend it, they feel like they have to, they need to, they've got to get this book. So we're going to start first with our research about haiku books and what are some popular haiku books. I'm going to start sharing my screen now. We're going to go on a Google haul. Okay, so I'm going to go here. Hello, Ebony. Gonna have to move this away from me. Okay, there we go. So we're gonna do haiku literature. So it's gonna tell us what it is, right? So the first thing that comes up is from 2019. So that's to say nothing tags under haiku literature since 2019. Now that's either bad news or good news for us. The bad news would be nobody's interested in haikus, perhaps, and that's why nothing comes up, you know, post 2019. Haiku was a fad, it's gone away, and this is even a book. This is just like 10 vivid haikus to leave you breathless, right? This is somebody's website that they did a collective of. Or it could be good news from us, which is the good news for us is the haikus that everybody else is writing are not being published, are not being packaged, and are not being marketed. So we have a niche, which is great for what do consumers want to purchase? They want to purchase something that makes them feel special. Like they're onto something that nobody else is. So niches are always a great way to market, to start off your marketing process. Like this is a specialty book. It's the first book of haikus published in such an extraordinary way since 2019. Taglines around that. So then we'll go to haiku compilations, since this is a compilation. See what comes up. Videos, right? Notebooks. The Earth Afloat, anthology, Japanese haiku. So let's go to Amazon. And put in The Earth Afloat. Doesn't come up. So this is actually good news for us, right? Because Amazon is a very popular place. Let's go to Kindle ebooks. The Earth Afloat. Nope. So we found a niche. We had an opportunity to create something that on Google is not coming up in a search engine that somebody's done it and somebody's done it in a grand way. And also on Amazon and Kindle. Nobody's done it in quite some time and nobody's done it in a grand way. Also, our literature is English, haiku based in Haiku based in Japanese language is going to offer something exotic to the consumer. So like I said, consumers want to feel special, right? Something exotic to the consumer is going to be something that came from another country or is based on another culture that is not widely available, right? So we have that going for us. I'm going to get into a Google Doc. Right. And that's where we'll start the process. So the process that we're going to start, now that we did a little market research, I go more in depth, like in region, like regionally. Like I would go into library catalogs and see how many books that they have on haiku are being checked out on a regular basis. And that's something usually you can call in and just talk to a librarian and ask them, do you carry any haiku books? Do you have any available? And if they say all of them are checked out, then you know that somebody's really interested in that region, in that specific genre of literature. That's what I did when I did my compilation. I did a compilation of 42 poems called Secrets of My Art. And it's all based on the Egyptian text that pharaohs governed the people by. So when I was doing my market research on that, I called around to different libraries in different regions and just seen how many books they carried on the Ma'at scrolls. And all of them were, while they were nonfiction, none of them were poetry books. None of them were interpretive. None of them had anything to do with popular culture or merging the context of the Ma'at scrolls with poetry, with popular culture, right? So I found my niche. I was writing a book that took the governing principles that pharaohs used to govern the people by in ancient Egypt and blended it into modern day times, like the laws that the state of Florida uses to govern its people, right? And then did my commentary interpretively through poetry. And that was the way that I started the process of putting together my book of poems. I started calling around and just finding out who's checking out these books, who's reading these books. Another way is the bestseller list, what's popular right now, what books are selling based in where you're going. So if you're looking for popular essays, we know Ta-Nehisi Coates has been dominating the essay market for quite some time, for several years now. And why is that? Well, when you get into his essays, they generally stick to the same subjects, right? And that there was a market for that because of the state, the climate, the political climate in the country. There was a market for political essays and commentary. And when he came out, there was I'm not going to say there was nobody offering his perspective, but there definitely was a lack of a presence of a Black male voice in essay form, responding to what is going on in socioeconomic Black America, right? But also political Black America and also historical Black America, and then blending those, combining those and saying, you know, after my research, this is what I conclude, this is the problem, this is the source, this is the solution, right? And writing, publishing essays of that sort. He kind of entered the political commentary segment into popular, brought it into popular culture, because you have a generation who doesn't read essays unless they're in school, now being exposed to scholarly articles, right, by Ta-Nehisi Coates, who's a popular culture icon, who made the bestseller list, right? So that's the idea of finding a niche for you based on what you want to create. Ta-Nehisi Coates wanted to create political commentary. He did it in essay form. What did his consumers want to receive? they were looking for answers, and something provocative, because this was a time, we're entering a time of the protest, and the military militarization of police, and the younger people being involved, like high school students. We haven't seen this many young people mobilized and involved in political protests since the civil rights era, when they were the ones who kind of started the trend of the lunch counters and the sit-ins. We have John Lewis, right? Enter John Lewis, right? And so that's something that a lot of people overlook in other genres like music. So singing and songwriting, when you talk about pop music, you want to make something that sounds like what's on the Hot 100, right? But when you talk about literature, it's kind of career suicide to start publishing books that read a lot like, or publishing essays that read a lot like someone else's very popular book or someone else's very popular essay. So nobody's going to recreate Harry Potter and try to pawn it out as something of their own, right? Just change the names and characters, because somebody's going to read it and go, this reads a lot like Harry Potter. The most successful artists have had autonomy of voice, meaning that their voice is just their own. Oh, this reads a lot like Sylvia Plath. Or I love the way in which Charles Dickens explains things in a way that the imagery, it jumps off the page at you, right? It hits you in a way that's relatable, no matter how much time has passed. It was the best of times, the worst of times. It's probably one of the best ways to start a book I've ever, because it's relatable. Anybody who reads that can name a moment, where it felt like that. This was the best of time. For me, that's my college experience summed up in one line. College. It's the best of times, worst of time. I had a lot of fun, had a lot of tragedy. I was very happy and very broke, and that was college. And so when we talk about finding our niche, like finding out what do consumers want to purchase versus what do you want to create, that has to merge in some way during the formative process. Now, this is assuming that you've already found your voice, or you already know the kind of writer you want to be. Not everybody has that up front, but they think about, if I become a writer, how much is it going to pay? What I've discovered is that it's up to you how much you're going to make. When I decided to start publishing work, the average price for a coffee table book of poetry was like $10 to $12. If you're going to sell it hand to hand at shows, like $10 to $12. This is my chapbook, and it's $10 or it's $12. When I completed my chapbook, my book was $20. I was selling it for $20, which was double what the other poets in my community, in my touring community, were selling their books from. But I priced mine higher because I felt like my poems were good enough for me to make the cost that it would of me printing the book, on top of the time that it took me to write the book, on top of whatever taxes I would have to pay on every book that I would sell. I didn't want to just break even. I wanted to make the money that it cost me for the graphic designer, for the cover art, and I wanted to make the money that it cost me for my gas or my plane ticket to go and sell books and market myself and set up signings and tables and promo. So I wasn't going to do it for $10, knowing that it cost me on average about $5.72 per book to publish, right? So I sold my book for $20 so that I could make at least $14 off of every book I sold to put back into the work, to re-up if I needed, to reorder more books wholesale and things of that, because I was a touring artist and I had to cover my cost. It wasn't something I was doing for a hobby. This is what I do to feed myself. So when you're thinking about what do you want to create, is also what would you be comfortable creating and selling for a price to the public? Because some things are just priceless. Some things it would insult you to put a price on, right? And some things, even though it may not be enough. Do I think that my book could be sold for $50? Sure. Do I think anybody at one of my poetry shows at that time in 2016, when I put my book out, was going to pay $50 for my book? No. So I had to go with what the consumers want to purchase from me, not what consumers would want to purchase from Maya Angelou, right? From me, from Ebony. And what they want to purchase is something that's going to make them feel special, something that's going to make them feel good about that purchase, but also something affordable that they felt like they got their money's worth. So I was still relatively unknown in major markets like New York or Chicago. And those are the markets that we had planned the book tour for. Me introducing myself with a product that was lower price than a poet that my work is comparable to in quality, but above the price of an author whose work was not comparable to mine in quality, whose work was just not on the same level of professionalism as mine. So they knew that, oh yes, this poet is better than the average overmicer, and she's got a book for sale. However, this poet is not a Princeton professor, and so I'm not paying $50 for this book. So that has everything to do with how I found my way into my first poetry book. So we're going to find our way into our first poetry book as a collective, and that's our haiku. So we're going to start with the first 5 syllables for this thing. We're only going to do, how many of us are in the room? Do you know, Laurel? How many are in the room with us?
Total, we have 10 participants.
Okay, so we have a total of 10 participants. What we're going to do is we're going to come up with 7 haiku between the 2 of us, between the 10 of us. And then we're going to narrow it down to 5. That's when we get to the editing process of what do consumers want to purchase from me? And they don't want to purchase every poem I've ever written. They want to purchase poems that have something to do with the name of the book and what I told them they would get out of reading my book. And it would be ego to lead me to believe that's every poem. They want to read every poem that I've got. And that's just not true. Every poem that you have, or every essay that you have, or every opinion that you have does not go in your blog. Every character that you develop doesn't necessarily fit well into the play, into the setup, to the backstory, to the overarching theme structure, thematic structure. And this could be a brilliant character, the comic relief and all of that, but you have to find a place for them to exist, a place for them to make sense. And it doesn't always make sense. So we're going to do more than we need, which is 7. And then we're going to find 2 to cut away. And then we'll get to the publishing process. Does anyone have any questions for me so far? I'm going to be post checking along the way because this is a lot to cover in one seminar, but I was more interested in you seeing how things finish once we begin, instead of just seeing the partial story. We're going to start at the beginning, which is the creation process. Then we're going to go to the editing process. Then we're going to go to the marketing process. And then finally, we'll end on the platform process, my chosen platform and why. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, great. So let's create these haiku. I'm going to call on you randomly. And the way that you're going to know I'm calling on you is I'm going to request that you unmute. And you can mute yourself back and just respond in the chat if you want to, or you can just say it out loud. So Erie Haiku Anthology. So since it's going to be poems about nature, because it's haiku, I would think that the nature that exists in Erie, Pennsylvania, I've never been. So you've been outside. I assume that you can think of some descriptive words for your surrounding. So all I ask of you is to give me 5 syllables for the first line that relate to something that you've observed in the surrounding nature in Erie. That's going to be the first place that we go. So we'll collect 5 syllables because that's the most of what we need. I'm going to collect 5 syllables from each person, and then we'll place those together, right? Because that'll give us what we need for the first line and the last line of the haiku. And then we'll get to the 7 in the middle. It's a method to the madness. It sounds out of order, but sometimes you have to start at the end to make the beginning make sense. Or sometimes you have to start in the middle so that you can have a provocative climax, so that the beginning of the story isn't the most exciting part, or the end of the story is kind of like a drop off from the excitement of the beginning and middle, if that makes sense. So we're going to start with our first line and our last lines, and then we'll fill in the 7 syllables in the middle. So haiku 1, 5 syllables about the nature in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Sunset on the beach.
Sunset on the beach. Syllable 1. Thank you, Will.
Natural wonders.
Of natural wonders or a natural wonders?
No, just natural wonders.
Natural wonders, gotcha. That's great. So we have the shell for haiku 1. And now we're going to move on to haiku 2. Five syllables. That's you, Laurel.
Sorry. Blue and white cool breeze.
Blue and white cool breeze. Does anybody have another 5 for her?
20.
About-
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say 20 Mile Creek.
20 Mile Creek. Okay, and who was that jumped in?
It was Lisa. The thriving, live, shimmering pastel sunsets. Is that too much?
Yeah, so we're gonna do so here this is where we can edit, right, Lisa? So the first and last line of each haiku is 5 syllables. So you said the thriving live.
Yes.
Let's say thriving live pastel. That's 5.
Thriving, live, pastel is 5.
Live pastel.
How do you get 5 out of that?
It's syllable counts. Instead of word count, it's syllable count. So thriving is 2 syllables. Live is 1 syllable. Pastel is 2 syllables. So I just took out the and the sunsets and just left it at thriving live pastels.
Gotcha.
And then who's got 5 more syllables for that?
I put mine in the chat. Visions of Green Hills.
I see visions of Green Hills. Okay. Erie got some writers on deck. Okay. All right, so we have shells for 3 of the 7. All right, so we're gonna get 5. May I have 5 syllables from you, please, Antonio? And you can put it in the chat if you don't want to talk to me. I don't know if he can hear me or not. What about, let's see. What about Devana? Devana, do you have 5 syllables for me? You could put it in the chat or you could say it.
I'm on 4 right now.
Okay. What are the 4 you have?
I had whistling of oak trees, but I don't know if oak trees whistle.
Actually, you got 5 whistling oak trees.
Okay.
Whistling oak trees. That's fine. And they whistle if you want them to. You're the writer. This is your book. This is our book. Whistling oak trees. Who's got 5 for that? Whistling oak trees. Let's sing. I say beckoning the wind. Beckoning the wind. Yeah. Whistling oak tree. Beckoning the wind.
Are we doing the second set of 5 syllables now? The end? Oh, okay.
That's the one. So what we've been doing is the first 5, I ask someone to give, and then your webinar mate will offer 5 more to complement that so that we have the first and last line of each haiku. So far we've done that and we've created 4 haiku together so far. So we've got 3 more shells to create, and then we'll go by one and complete the haiku with the 7-syllable middle, like the filling, if you will, on a Twinkie. So, Jade, do you have 5 syllables about the environment in Erie? I'm learning a lot about what it looks like there. I'm excited. And if you're with us and you just don't want to share, you can is there a thumbs down reaction that you can put? Do they have a thumbs down reaction? I never use my reactions. No, they don't have a, look at all my reactions are happy. Or you can just do a thumbs up reaction as in I'm good, never writing a haiku with strangers. Okay. Sherry said she's a poet. Sherry, you got 5 syllables? I'm not sure, Laurel. I think I may.
I know Jade's having some technical difficulties on her end, but beyond that, I'm not sure.
Got it. Okay. Mike, what you got for me? 5 syllables.
Okay, well, I gave you the 2 things I came up with. I had 20 Mile Creek is one possibility, and natural wonders.
Yes, I have those both already. I'm saying, do you have another 5?
Oh, okay. I'll see what I can come up with.
Are we still talking about the oak tree?
Oh, no. We're on haiku 5 now. So we need the first line of haiku 5. We've already written almost all of our book. No time at all. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Rainbow, okay, Will says rainbows pierce storm clouds. Rhonda said like strong, proud afros. Ooh, this is
I think I
nice.
misunderstood. I think I misunderstood. That's the last 5 syllables of my haiku. So I gave you the
Of
first
Green
and
Hills, like strong, proud afros. Okay.
that's the last. Mhm.
So this is what we'll do. So that one was thriving live pastels. And then we had put as the last line, visions of green hills, but we'll do thriving live pastels and then rainbows, piers, storm clouds, right? And then we'll do visions of green hills and then like strong, proud afros. And those are our 5 so far. So let's see. Okay, 2 more to go. 2 more to go. And I think I'll start with the 5. I'll give 5. I've never been to Erie. So curiosity. There we go. Curiosity. That's my 5. Curiosity.
Okay, here's another one for me. Gleaming waters flow.
Gleaming waters flow. Hmm. Does anyone have 5 syllables that I think pair nicely with gleaming waters flow?
Dark clouds rolling in.
Ah, indeed. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have our shells for our 7, except 1 5-syllable count to curiosity. Curiosity, I'm thinking like cat, something about, because they say curiosity killed the cat. And I think I'm curious, and if I go, I think I'll survive my trip. So this cat survived. Cat skates across the ice. That's a nice one. There's ice up there. It freezes over. Do y'all have a lake or something? Is it Lake Erie?
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it? So I'm fascinated with Lake Michigan because my family's from Chicago and I think
Mhm.
it's absolutely beautiful. Is Lake Erie anything similar to that? Like in color?
Well, it's shallower, I believe.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cool. That's relevant to, okay.
The
Skates.
waters are murky,
Oh, okay, got it.
Choose the cat.
depending on certain places. And in certain places, the water is very clear, depending on.
Mhm.
How about curiosity shows the cat venture? Going off of curiosity, shows the cat venture.
Shows the cat venture. Well,
Venture.
well, where we're at now is we're in the cream filling part. So we've got 7 shells. So you could actually use 7 syllables there. So curiosity.
Shows the cat adventure.
Yeah,
Adventure.
shows the cat at
Shows the cat adventure. Well, that's 6.
and adventure. Curiosity shows the cat an adventure, skates across the ice.
I like it.
That's our first completed haiku. All right, so I'm gonna go back up to the top and we'll start filling in these shells with 7-syllable fillings. 7-syllable cream is what we'll call it. So, sunset on the beach, natural wonders. We need a 7-syllable filling for that. Sunset on the beach, natural wonders.
How about Keystones, frontier to the north?
Awesome. Keystones, frontier to the north. Okay, next shell. Blue and white cool breeze, 20 Mile Creek. Blue and white cool breeze, 20 Mile Creek. 7 syllables to fill that in the middle. Connect those 2 phrases. Let's see. Blue and white cool breeze, 20 Mile Creek. Oh, actually, So what does anybody know like a word to describe ice skating, like that describes how someone was ice skating? And I like that, gently flow past my window. Perfect. Gently flow past my window. Okay, blue and white cool breeze, gently flow past my window, 20 Mile Creek. Next shell, thriving live pastels. Rainbows pierce storm clouds. Thriving live pastels. Rainbows pierce storm clouds. Race across the gray skies. There we go. I see you, Rhonda, over there, writing haiku. We're gonna say grayest. Race across the grayest skies. Race across the grayest skies. Yeah, that makes 7. Race across the grayest skies. All right. Thriving live pastels. Race across the grayest skies. Rainbows pierce storm clouds. Okay. Whistling oak trees, beckoning the wind. Whistling oak trees. Purse their lips of bark and purse their lips of bark and moss. Do oak trees have moss? Sometimes, no,
I don't think so. Well, not automatically anyway.
not automatically.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, like of bark and bark and branch. Purse their lips of bark and branch. Beckoning the wind. Whistling oak trees purse their lips of bark and branch, beckoning the wind. Okay. Visions of green hills. We need cream filling for like strong, proud afros. Visions of green hills like strong, proud afros. This is one of 3 left to complete. Visions of green hills like strong, proud afros. Whip past my speeding windows. Yes. Whip past my speeding windows. See, the hard part is the better of a writer you become, the harder it is to edit your books. Which is also why fresh eyes are good for that.
Mm-hmm.
For you not to do it, for someone who would be a would-be consumer to do it. Okay, and we've already done curiosity. So we have one more left, and that's gleaming waters flow, dark clouds rolling in. We just need 7 for that. Gleaming waters flow, dark clouds come rolling in. Gleaming waters flow, dark clouds come rolling in. Gulls soar on the blowing wind. Come through, Erie arts and culture. Gulls soar on the blowing wind. All right. So I'm going to there we go. I'm going to share my screen again so we can read our book together. Congratulations, everyone. You've already finished your first book together, and we just met, and we've already created a product. So it really doesn't have to be as complicated as it would seem. Something as simple as this. Yes, hooray, Devani. So hooray, hooray, hooray for celebrating. Okay, so this is how our book reads. Sunset on the beach, Keystone's frontier to the north, natural wonders, blue and white cool breeze, gently flow past my window, 20 Mile Creek, thriving live pastels, race across the grayest skies, rainbows pierce storm clouds, whistling oak trees, purse their lips of bark and branch, beckoning the wind. Visions of green hills whip past my speeding windows like strong, proud afros. Curiosity shows the cat in adventure, skates across the ice. Gleaming waters flow, gulls soar on the blowing wind, dark clouds rolling in. So what do we think of our book? Is this something that we feel will be essential to our target consumer? So what I was developing by saying I've never been to Erie, so let's write haikus about Erie, right? It's because haikus, so something familiar to people who are fans of haiku is the fact that they're about nature, right?
Oh, I was going to point out there's only one E at the beginning of Erie.
Got it. Thank you. Like that?
Mm-hmm, right.
Gotcha. Okay. So with consumers, they want to feel special, but also they also want something familiar. That's a draw in. So your draw in would be that haiku is familiar to poetry fans. And so they're going to know that it's supposed to be about nature. However, if I were a consumer, I'm a fan of poetry. I'm a fan of haiku. This is an anthology of haiku about Erie. For me, the attraction, the draw in is that I've never been to Erie. I want to know what it's like there. And all of these poems are about what the nature is like there. It's going to tell me, how lovely of a place it is to live. So that makes me a niche consumer, like a easy target, low hanging fruit. We were going to sell this book to Ebony Payne English, who's never been to Erie. The content we know will sell. How would we edit this book to make it easier for Ebony to digest? There's 7, we need 5. Which ones would go? A person who's never been to Erie, who would like to buy this book, or who you would like to buy this book, right? For the price that we're going to place on it. 2 of these haiku would just make it too much for them to digest, or too much for them to process, or just not fit with the goal of this anthology, which is to be brief, right? Have lots of imagery, be intriguing, but also true to the haiku purism, quote unquote, that consumers going to have, because there's not very many books of haiku that are written in English that are available on platforms such as Amazon or Kindle.
I think mine needs to go. The Visions of Green Hill. I don't think it fits with the rest of them.
Okay. So Vision of Green Hills interrupts the story. And I would say mine, curiosity, right? Everything is speaking to the affirmative and directly. Curiosity leaves room for doubt, and we don't want our consumers considering doubt. So off with that one, right? And so now our book reads, Sunset on the Beach, Keystone's Frontier to the North, Natural Wonders, blue and white cool breeze gently flow past my window, 20-Mile Creek, thriving live pastels, race across the grayest skies, rainbows pierce storm clouds, whistling oak trees, purse their lips of bark and branch, beckoning the wind, gleaming waters flow, gold soar on the blowing wind, dark clouds rolling in. What else have you noticed that has changed about this? Anybody notice anything else that losing those 2 haiku created here? So now the book reads like a poem, does it not?
Mm-hmm.
Like one long poem. So now we've created a book that has 2 in 1, right? You can read it as a poem, or you can read it as 5 different haiku. Would that be an interesting tagline or interesting marketing strategy to say?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you can read this book back to forward, right? Gleaming waters flow, gold soar on the blowing wind, dark clouds rolling in, whistling oak trees purse their lips of bark and branch, beckoning the wind. Thriving live pastels race across the grayest skies, rainbows pierce storm clouds, blue and white cool breeze gently flow past my window, 20-Mile Creek. Sunset on the beach, Keystone's Frontier to the North, natural wonders. Right? And you can read it just by dropping the book, and whatever page it lands on, you start there, go to the end, and go back around to the beginning and read it through, right? Thriving live pastels, race across the grayest skies, rainbows pierce storm clouds, whistling oak trees purse their lips of bark and branch, beckoning the wind, gleaming waters flow, gold soar on the blowing wind, dark clouds rolling in, sunset on the beach, keystones frontier to the north, natural wonders, blue and white cool breeze, gently flow past my window, 20-mile creek, right? So this is a book that you can read back to forward to back, randomly, at whim. It's a coffee table book that's a conversation starter about the nature, the beautiful nature found in Erie, right? And then we could even pair it, right, with the photographer, like find a local photographer and pair it and partner with there's a visual book, right, that pairs nicely with this coffee table haiku book, right? And so now we've got cross branding and cross marketing. So we go from there. That's how you shape it. So we've already said, what do we want to create? What do consumers want to purchase from us? What makes what you create essential to your target consumer? And how do we shape it? That's how, as in how do we package that? How do we market it? What's our selling point, right? So how do we price that? So what would you pay? What would you pay for a book you can read back to forward to back, randomly at whim, that has beautiful pictures of natural landscapes about Erie, Pennsylvania? What do you think you would pay for something like that? That's in poetic haiku.
I don't know, 1995 maybe?
1995. That's an excellent price point for something like that. But let's see. We'll do one more piece of market research. What do people pay for photo books? Let's see about that.
Oh, it can be anything up into the hundreds or thousands of dollars.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Photography. Yep. From $29.95, $11.99, all the way to $129. Right? So if we put these photos, if we blend them with haiku and poetry, what's a good happy medium between $129 and $19.95? What do you think would be a happy medium there, considering we're novice authors here?
Well, if we make it a limited edition, that's one way of increasing the price.
Yes, this is the first and only time these writers will be together collaborating in such a way.
Yes, 50 copies signed and numbered.
By every author,
Hey.
all 10 authors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's worth at least $5 extra per author, $50, right? Plus the work itself, $19.95. So now we've got a $69.95 price point. 5 haiku, maybe 1 photo per page. So we have 10, maybe 10 photos, so that when it flips, there's a photo. You flip, there's a photo, right? Front to back photo. And then the haiku on each page that you can recover. 10 photos, 5 haiku, right? 15 pages. A foreword written by the executive director of the Erie, Pennsylvania Arts and Culture Center, perhaps. Yeah. Add that
Definitely.
in. And he works in nonprofit, so I'm sure we can get him to do it for free. And we're talking here. I say $69.95 is a great limited edition deal. And then we could always release the unreleased version to the public with the 2 extra haiku and put $10 on there and make it a $79.95 for the extended version, the bonus haiku that we deleted.
Right.
So that's how do we price that? And that's a competitive number based on what people would pay for photography books and what the average going rate is for a poetry book. And you put that together because you have both, and you have a niche, right? People who love landscape photography and people who love poems. And then you're presenting something new to them because now you're offering a poem broken down into 5 different haiku, which is something that they'll feel like we're geniuses for doing when really we just did it in a workshop on Zoom. But they don't know that. They don't need to know that. We're geniuses.
Nope.
So how do you sell that and where? So how would we go about selling that? If we're going to sell this landscape photography book about Erie, where's a good place to sell that at?
Well, I think because of the nature of this, its appeal would be limited primarily to Erie County. So I would say museums and bookstores throughout the county would be a good start. Maybe the Historical Society.
Absolutely. Because I was going to say museums, museum gift shops.
Exactly.
Historical societies,
yes.
Excellent place to sell it. Local coffee shops, excellent place. Is there any major center for major attraction for tourists in Erie?
Tom Ridge Center, right there by the Presque Isle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because these are going to be great takeaways. Like, I visited Erie and look, there's photos and haiku about Erie. Like, this is all very marketable, right? Also, tourist blogs, travel blogs that have like Erie on them, or Lake Erie, if that has a tourist center for the lake, for the Great Lakes,
right?
About the Great Lakes, right? We can tag that under, because Amazon has all kind of tags that you can add. This would be an excellent way to do that. And then we can say it's nonfiction, right? So people want to, there's a whole niche for nonfiction stuff. So this is not only just poetry, not only just photography, landscape photography. This is haiku and nonfiction journalism, right? About Erie, Pennsylvania. So now we're talking, how do we sell it and where? So this is the last bullet point on my talking points for the webinar. And I'm gonna share my screen. I published both of my books. I self-published both of my books on the same platform, and that's Kindle Direct Publishing. The reason why I use KDP is because I can publish I publish both of my books at the same time, and I have the option to publish them both as all three actually, as an audio book, as a digital book, and also as a physical paper copy. And all of them, all of it is automatically made available on Amazon and Kindle. So you can just type in my name or the name of my book, and then it's available on Amazon and Kindle. The reason why that's important is Amazon has its own bestseller list, right? And the way that Amazon breaks down its bestseller list is by genre and by niche, right? So if we put this book and we tagged it under landscape photography, or tagged it under haiku literature, right? We already saw there ain't even nobody out there doing haiku literature. So when they're doing the bestseller list, all we have to do is sell our bare minimum of Amazon books, and we're going to be at the top of the list for haiku literature, right? Just by what we tagged it under. Or if we do very well with our landscape photography, if we find a photographer that has their own following and pay them a flat fee just for the pictures, right? Because you can retain a photographer just to do a shoot for you, for your book, for the sake of the graphics for your book, right? So we say, we buy out this photographer. We say, what is your fee? And they say, okay, well, I charge $125 an hour. And so we need 10 photos. So we book them for maybe a 3-hour shoot. And we let them go around Erie, drive around, take a bunch of pictures. But do you have suggestions for where we can find an affordable photographer? Absolutely. I always use Instagram. Since Instagram became a thing, I use Instagram to find my photographers, because if you go to the landing page, you'll find a lot of, and you put in or you hashtag photography. We're going to be hashtagging landscape photography. And then it's going to bring up lots of photos that look great. And then so you find some great photos, and then you check the followers. You find great photos for someone who has under 3,000 followers. And then you ask them their pricing. Because now it becomes you giving them an opportunity, right, to expand their audience in their platform. But if they have great quality work, You just ask them what their fee is, because everybody else is going to want royalties. If they have a great large following, they're like, you have to pay me for this because my name is on it, it's going to sell and I want the residuals. So you want to give somebody the opportunity to not only expand their platform, but to assist you in expanding yours as well. And then they have just as much to lose or to gain as you. So they're going to push the book in their community just as hard as you're going to push it in your community. And that's how that comes together. But Instagram landing page, hashtag landscape photography is where I would go with this, and just find someone with not a lot of followers, but has a great eye, and just ask them what their flat fee is. Absolutely. And then we go from there. So I'm going to do one last screen share, and I'm going to show you what the homepage and my profile for my Kindle Direct Publishing looks like. And I'll show you how to get paid off of that and how they break it down. So I'm going to tell you the pro to it is you don't have to pay for printing. The con to that is you're not paying a local printer. So nobody in your community is coming up off of you publishing a book. Given that this book is about Erie, Pennsylvania, the way to get around that is to write a grant, right, for arts and culture or tourism to pay for the cost of printing locally, and still use Kindle Direct Publishing to do your online, right? So that you don't have to get stuck shipping books out. Let's say 10,000 people buy your book off your website, and now you have to package and ship and pay for shipping for all those books. We'll let Amazon take care of that. And then we'll do the direct hand-to-hand with your tourism, your museums and stuff. You just have them, sign an agreement with you, do the price point, and they're going to mark it up, right? So if we're selling it retail $69.95 directly from us, then what would be a reasonable markup so that the museum is selling it, right? But we're still getting what we want retail wise. I would suggest the Historic Society could sell it for $75. People go in there, they'll pay $75 for that from them, and then they make about $10 off of it, right? And then we're because plus tax, once they add the tax in and stuff, they'll make about $10 off of it. And then we still make what our goal is, because we've got to split this money, right, 10 ways. So we want to make sure that we're always getting that up. So you also want to consider your markups. With Amazon, they're gonna take half of what you sell the book for. So if we're selling it on Kindle Direct Publishing for $69.95, depending on how many pages there are, and whether it's in color or in black and white, it could be up to half. What is in our benefit is what we chose. We chose haiku, which are short poems.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have very many pages. I gotta charge us. So we're selling a $70 book that's gonna cost them maybe $3.27 in wholesale. So we'll get the books for $3.27, maybe a little more than that once you count shipping, wholesale. And then we'll retail them for $69.95. And we don't have to do any of the printing ourselves. Or we'll write a grant to the arts and culture, right? For buying local, and then go to a local printer and have them print us up without our own money. And then we use those to stock the local places that are going to be low-hanging fruit for us to market, right? And then we use Amazon to market to the travel blogs, the Lake Erie blogs, the Great Lake blogs, the landscape photography blogs, all of that. We let Amazon take care of those orders. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Keep your overhead down. Keep your overhead and your effort. You've already done the hard work. You wrote a book, okay? You don't want to make extra work for yourself. Sitting at home stuffing envelopes was not for me. Like, I tried it. It was a bad idea because I had a really great marketing strategy, but I had no help. It was just me. I was like, yes, I'm going to market my book like this. It worked out well. There was a card deck called Black Spades that was coming out. And Black Spades, all of the face card are ancient Egyptian figures. So like the Joker is Akhenaten, right? And then Sekhmet is a little Joker, right? And then you have all of the different, you have King Tut as one of the kings and things. And so since my book was called Secrets of My Eye and is related to Egyptian, I wrote a poem as a commercial for the Black Spades Company, and I sent it to them. And then they endorsed me. And so we went on book tour. I did my book tour in cohesion with their release of their card deck. They had a much bigger fan base than me because they had crowdfunded $73,000 to even print the decks and get them distributed. They crowdfunded $73,000 on their own. That means they have a lot of followers. People like them. That's cool. I'm just an author. I'm a poet. I wrote something for you, free advertisement, and they endorsed me. And so I got this book tour. But what came with that is they got a free deck of cards with the orders of my book. And then they had all these orders that I had to fill all by myself, and I had to pay for help. I had to pay shipping, and it cost me money. I end up like, I didn't make nearly as much money as I could have made because I was doing it all by myself. And that's something, because printing costs, my book is 89 pages. I had to pay the printer, pay a local printer to print 89 pages, right? And so it just, that's what I learned. Make it easy. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna share. And we'll go to my landing page on Kindle Direct. And so you can see this a little better. Okay, so this is what it looks like. kdp.amazon.com. And go, if I go to my account, that just is your overhead. But this is where you go. So this is my bookshelf, what they would call my bookshelf, right? So these are the books that I have, right? This is my poetry book. I sell it for $19.95. Was that Will that said $19.95 is a good price?
Mhm.
Good price for poetry, cheap price for photography, right?
Mhm.
So this has live illustration. This is my graphic novel. This has live illustrations. Every page has an illustration. So that's $39.99, right? And comic book stores, it sells for $52.99. It's cheaper for them to get the ebook. And that's because it's less work for me. So make that markable. So we're gonna create, do we want a paperback? So that's the other thing about KDP is that they don't do hardcovers. So that limited edition, that deluxe edition, that's what we could be writing our grant for, is so that we can print hardcover deluxe editions and we can buy those from our local printer. And then the online, the ebook and the paperback will be with Amazon. And we can keep that cheap. Okay, so we're gonna write it in English. Our book title. What's anybody got an idea of a good title? Do we want to say Erie Haiku Anthology? Does that scream, you know, the message that we're sending?
No, it's got to be more creative than that.
Right. Especially because we found this great Instagram photographer who has a wonderful eye for landscape photography. And we wanted to say that includes it too. Cool. Let's see.
The Erie Wonders of Haiku, in haiku? Of haiku or in haiku?
Erie Wonders in Haiku.
Or Erie Wonders of Haiku? I don't know. Either or.
I like that. Erie Wonders in Haiku, or Wonders of Erie in Haiku, right? Wonders of Erie in haiku. And then what we'll do what we'll do is go to Google and see if anybody has that title already.
Your titles aren't protected by copyright, as I understand it.
Titles aren't, but marketing wise, you don't want to be attached to a more successful book.
Mhm.
Wonders of Erie. We'll start with Wonders of Erie. Erie Wonders to debut into it. Nope. 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 So we're good. Because now Wonders of Erie could also be like a subtitle, right? For a collection. So Wonders of Erie becomes, so Wonders of Erie in haiku. And then that opens us up to do Wonders of Erie in photography, Wonders of Erie in song, Wonders of Erie in essay, Wonders of Erie. And you see what I'm saying? We go on and on, on and on. Subtitle, no. Wonders of Erie in haiku. Is your book part of a series? And then it gives you the opportunity to add series details. So even if you don't have the other books written for your series, you can talk about it as if you do. New series, create it, describe it. This is a series of book about nature in Erie, Pennsylvania. It's nonfiction, written by 10 authors, an award-winning photographer. The award he won was our bid, our business, right? Contributors. This is where we'll put all of our authors. You can add as many as you like to this. And then also a primary author, right? So the primary author would be this collective, whatever this collective is called. We can say webinar, July 13th. It's the primary author. And then contributor, it would be photographer, the Instagram guy we found or girl we found, right? And then we would describe all of the wonderful things. When I said about tags, nonfiction, journalistic approach to landscape photography and haiku from the perspective of Erie, Pennsylvania citizens and authors, right? Something like that. And then that way, when they put it in, it comes up on it. Publishing rights, we own the copyright. And then choose the keywords, short words, hot words, landscape photography, haiku, poetry, anthology, nature, nonfiction, journalism, historic, geographic, tourism, all of that, travel, all of that. So which one of these do you think would be the most marketable for us to choose?
Definitely nonfiction.
Yep. We would take the nonfiction route. And here we are. Look at all of this. The world is ours, right? Antiques and collectibles is a niche, and it would still fall within our bandwidth here with the type of book we're putting out. Art. I would say even crafts and hobbies, because nature watching is a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
History, absolutely. Language arts and disciplines, absolutely. Nature.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Philosophy, photography,
Photography.
poetry, science, social science, sports and recreation, right? Travel, right? So nonfiction, definitely. And then within the nonfiction, we have all of those tags to work with. Is this adult? Does this book contain language, situation, or images inappropriate? No. So that means that they could even use this as textbooks. We could send this to universities. Are there any universities in Erie?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. So we could market that to the college. So that's as far, I was gonna see how far it let us go. But that's as far as it's gonna go. The next page is gonna be pricing and content. So we would cut and paste everything from over there into the next page in our content. But it's pretty much turnkey. Once you get on KDP, they walk you through step by step. And even if you don't have your own graphic designer, they have a template where you can design your book cover in that application, like right after that, after you do the content and after you select all of the different genres, the tags that you want to use, then they say, do you already have a cover or do you want us to create one? And then you create one right in there. It'll be basic with just the writing on there. But if you have the photo, one of the photos the photographer took, you can just add it as an attachment and then they put it to scale and you put your text over it. And then it publishes, you can publish it instantly or you can schedule it to publish in the future. That way you can advertise it and you can buy ads on Facebook or Instagram or on Google to advertise that there's going to be a book on Erie, Pennsylvania releasing soon. And it's journalism mixed with haiku, mixed with landscape photography, right? And then that way you can start getting likes and hits for your online sales from people outside of Erie, which is also good for the grant that you receive, right? Because now you're intriguing people outside of the area to invest in the economy of Erie, because y'all are all Erie writers that wrote this really great thing, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions for me?
Well, I guess I was going to say, I think realistically, though, this is the kind of book that's going to appeal primarily locally and maybe with people elsewhere that have ties of some kind to Erie, but it's going to be a fairly specified market.
Yeah.
Did I hear you say that Amazon takes half? What
I
month?
said it could take up to half depending on how long your book is. That's why we talk about what do consumers want to purchase versus what you want to create. It's like you want to create something low overhead for you, but worth the price to the consumer. So if I published every poem I've ever written, that book would be very long and very expensive to print. Amazon would probably take half just for me to get copies for myself. And I don't want that. I want to pay $3.27 for a book I'm going to sell for $70, which is what essentially would be our market price, right? For this book of 5 haiku that read as a long poem or as individuals, back to front, front to back, however you want it, with pictures to match, 10 pages long, right? With the forward, so maybe 12 pages long, maybe $5.27 to print a piece, selling it for $70. That's the way to go. That's the way to go. But that's also merchandising your words, right? If we were so attached to these poems where we're just like, oh my God, I can't do that to people. This is poetry. I'm going to give it away for free. We never make anything. So that's about learning how to disconnect the art from the marketing and marrying them in a way that makes you feel comfortable as the artist, but also the consumer benefits from you capitalizing on what you can do with the resources available. Do you have any suggestions for how to write a contract with the photographer and any wording that may need to be included so that we can use the photos without paying royalties? Also, do you think we can use the Instagram photographer we found photos as our cover page? Yes, you can. So this is how you do that. When you book the photographer, just like wedding photos, they have an agreement about how they're going to give you your photos. So you need to make sure the wording is in there that you are the sole owner of the photos. Once the photos have been released, it's called a photo release. Once the photos have been released to you, you own the photos and you have the right and freedom to do what you will with them. Once they sign off on that, which is standard for a photographer, event photographers, and that's standard. You pay them their fee. They give you the photos. It's no longer their photo. It's your photo, and you can do what you will with it. And you can, or you can opt out of giving them credit. I think that artistically, it would be best practice to credit them for having been the photographer. But once you pay for the photos, you own them.
Yeah, I was going to say another source for photos I forget its exact name, but it's one of a branch of Yahoo where people put photos of, on virtually every subject.
Stock photos.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's another excellent source. And there are photos there, even of Erie and Erie County.
Oh, that's cool. It's cool to know.
Mhm.
Yep. Stock photos, they're free reign.
Mhm.
What was that again?
Stock photos.
No, there's a specific name. It just
There's a
escapes me.
name for a platform, but there are multiple platforms
Oh,
that
sure.
have stock photos
Right, right.
that are free reign. So you would just you could put it in the search bar and Google stock photos of Erie,
Right.
and then go through them, and then pick the ones you like, put them in your book. The issue is going to be with sizing though, because you also want them to print with quality, right? And so a lot of stock photos are not sized the way a photographer would size them appropriately to be print for print. So
But they're in the public domain though. Stock photos are automatically in the public domain.
Mhm.
Okay.
I
Does it
do have a
cost?
question about photos though. Somebody else
It is.
call.
It costs more to print photos with color than black and white. The idea is it's going to print. You can choose the weight of your page. So when you go through the app, it's going to ask you. It's going to give you options for the weight of your pages, right? Color is much more costly. Yes, Mike, it is. It's much more costly. But that's why our book is only 10 pages long. It won't be much color to pay for.
Yep.
And that's why the book is $70, $69.95, because color photos are in this book with haikus. Any other questions?
I do have a question about the if you have a photo, and I don't know if anybody knows this, but if you have a photo that doesn't have royalties attached to it, can you purchase it and make it your own?
It depends on who has laid claim to the photo. So like if you have a photo, like did you find the photo
Yeah,
online?
yeah,
Was it shared by someone,
by a site.
by a site?
Yeah, and there's royalty free. It's royalty free,
Right. So
so anybody can use it.
right. So some sites go collect stock photos and then put them in a hub and then sell them to people, where you can it makes it easy because their hub has like titles and sections and specificities, even of size and quality. And so they do charge you to purchase them, but once you purchase them, you own them. I produced a play called On Purpose, and there were photos I needed as stills because the set was all digital. It was all on TV screens. We did it at the local TV station. We turned it into a playhouse. And so the set was all digital screens. And so I had to purchase those photos because I wanted specific photos and they had to be sized specifically. And so although they were stock photos, I could have got them for free. They wouldn't be sized correctly for the size of the screens at the TV station. So I had to go on that site and purchase the same photos I could get for free from them. So it just depends.
Thank you.
No problem. Well, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I hope that this was helpful and informative. I will be emailing Laurel the copy of the community poem that we wrote together. Perhaps y'all can publish it, find a landscape photographer, make some money for attending this workshop. I've already sent a release. I've already signed a release. So anything I contributed, it's fine. Y'all fine. I've been paid. No problem. And it was helpful to exchange with you. And I had a beautiful time. And that is my time. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank
You
you so
too.
much.
Hey, I just want to thank you, Ebony, again for spending this time and for everyone for joining us this evening. And for those still left on the call, remember you can stay in touch with Ebony by visiting her website, ebonypayneenglish.com. And similarly, want to thank the National Endowment for the Arts again for sponsoring this evening. It's been a great time together. Copy of, or not a copy, a recording of this will be available on our website, and upcoming events will also be available through our website. So please check in at erieartsandculture.org. Thanks again to everyone, and we hope to see you again soon. Have a great evening.
Yeah, take care.
Take it easy.
Bye.